and Religious Affairs, as well as the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Mr. Speaker, faith-based organizations play a critical role in our nation's development by addressing social challenges and fostering community transformation. This government, recognizing their importance, Cabinet has approved funding, and the Ministry of Mental Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs issued requests for proposal to enable faith-based organizations to actively contribute to the transformation process through community development and social transformation initiative. Mr. Speaker, the initiative provides grant funding for small, impactful projects aimed at addressing key social issues in communities where faith-based organizations operate or have influence. The areas of focus include education and skill development, youth empowerment, health and wellness, agriculture and nutrition security, disaster management, community development, information and communication technology. To ensure equitable access, one project will be implemented in each constituency with a maximum grant of $10,000. However, constituencies with greater needs like Carriacou, Petite Martinique, St. David's, St. John's, and South St. George will be allocated $15,500. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to report that on Wednesday, 11th December, the Ministry disbursed funding for 6 projects under these initiatives. Agape Business Group Development Project, Agape Ministries, Tongue of St. George, Empowerment Through Counseling and Sewing, Broad Grove New Testament Church, St. Andrew Southwest, Lighthouse Excellence Development Project, Upward to Pentecostal Mega Church, St. David's, Poverty Reduction Through Food Security, Franciscan Institute, St. Andrew Northeast, refurbishment of the Monlong Camp, Pawi, St. Andrew Northwest, Sustainable Constantine 2025, Methodist Church, St. George's Northeast. These projects, Mr. Speaker, are designed to create lasting impact in the respective communities by empowering individuals, fostering economic growth, and addressing critical social needs. The Ministry will continue to monitor the progress of these projects to ensure accountability and alignment with the initiative's objective. Mr. Speaker, this is a testament to our commitment to building stronger, more resilient communities by partnering with faith-based organizations to drive meaningful change. Mr. Speaker, Cabinet has approved the establishment of a National Sports Council, of the National Sports Council of Grenada, which held its inaugural board meeting on December 10, 2024 at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. This marks a significant step in advancing sports development and empowering athletes across the nation. The meeting focused on critical priorities, including promoting grassroots sports participation at the parish level, strengthening partnership with federations and sporting bodies, enhancing governance and management within parish councils. Board members, including representatives from all parish councils, and they reaffirmed their commitment to expanding opportunities to Grenadian athletes and driving initiatives that will foster tangible progress. The chairman is Mr. Patrick Simmons, who expressed gratitude to the government for the support and confidence in the Council's ability to transform Grenada's sports landscape, while also highlighting plans to rehabilitate sports facilities damaged by Hurricane Beryl. This inaugural meeting, Mr. Speaker, sets the foundation for strategic action to develop a dynamic sports culture with a focus of inclusivity and collaboration, among stakeholders, including Carriacou and Petite Martinique. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that after the advent of Hurricane Beryl, we had serious devastation in Carriacou, and in 2025, they will be given priority. Mr. Speaker, swearing of our youth parliamentarian. It is with great pride that I update this Honorable House on the historic election of our first ever National Youth Parliamentarians. On December 5th, over 1,000 registered voters, youth voters, Mr. Speaker, participated in an online election platform to select candidates to represent their constituency, marking a significant milestone in youth leadership and civic engagement in Grenada. This election resulted in the formation of a dedicated cohort of 14 youth parliamentarians who will be sworn in early in January, Mr. Speaker, of 2025. These young leaders have been chosen to advocate for their communities, amplify youth voices, and play an active role in local and national development. Mr. Speaker, once sworn in, the youth parliamentarians will represent their constituency in the National Youth Parliament, ensuring the voices and concerns of young people are heard and addressed, demonstrate the value of youth leadership by providing policy advice to decision makers on matters affecting the nation's young people, access to $5,000 community support grant to implement impactful projects with their respective constituencies, fostering development and engagement at the grassroots level. To ensure these youth leaders are well prepared, the Ministry of Youth and Sports has committed to providing mentorship opportunities with experienced leaders, organizing continuous training and workshops to build their leadership capacity and enhance their ability to contribute to meaningfully to national discourse. This initiative, Mr. Speaker, is part of a pilot project aimed at strengthening the youth leadership, advocacy, and governance in Grenada. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to update this Honorable House that on the 1st of December we held our first National Youth Rally and Award Ceremony, appreciating, Mr. Speaker, that our young people need to be recognized by us as a government. And speaking of government's commitment to providing for our young people, our own Afi Fletcher was awarded at that day. We have a young Renel Gilbert who received scholarship from the government of Grenada. Mr. Speaker, this government seriously concerned about our young people. And so we do not only make promises and deliver on our promises, but we also deliver on the promises made by previous governments. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, on that day, Lyndon Victor, Anderson Peters, and Coach Paul Philip received the deed and plan, a decision, a promise that was made since 2018. Mr. Speaker, as a government, we'll continue to provide for our young people. And if you believe that we have done a lot in 2024, just wait until 2025. I thank you.
Thank you, MP for St. Andrew Northwest. MP for St. Andrews Southwest.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a very pleasant good morning to all. Mr. Speaker, I thought I should use this information, this opportunity, to update this Parliament and the nation on some of the major activities that have been taking place within the Ministry of Agriculture. So this nation will recall that following Beryl, the destruction done to the northern part of our island, including Carriacou and Petite Martinique, our government took the decision to provide income support to our farmers, crop farmers, cocoa and nutmeg farmers. And the support took the form of $4,500 to those whose land is up to 5 acres, and for those whose acreage is greater than 5 acres, they will receive $9,000. Mr. Speaker, we ask farmers, and that wasn't just for registered farmers, that was for all farmers who were affected by the hurricane. I also want to indicate, Mr. Speaker, that just before the hurricane, we took out insurance for our farmers with an insurance credit union company called COPEF of Dominica. And with the passage of Beryl, we were able to receive an additional $3.4 million payout for our farmers. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I really have to give our Prime Minister the credit for this, because we went to him days before the deadline, and we said to him, Prime Minister, the forecast for this year is that we are going to have an above normal hurricane season, and there is need for us to provide some insurance for our farmers. And he readily agreed. And we made the $500,000 payment almost late, but happily, with our own communication, COPEF accepted the late payment, and therefore we were able to deliver to our farmers. So, Mr. Speaker, so far I want to say to this honorable House that thousands of farmers have benefited from the program. In fact, just yesterday, Minister Cornwall had a distribution in Sutter's. I think he would have distributed checks to over 20 farmers, and there were more checks to be distributed, but not all farmers came along. In Grenville, we distributed checks on 2 occasions. Last week, we were in Black Bay, St. John's. We distributed checks to a number of farmers with the support of Minister Kevin James. We also distributed checks. Prime Minister himself distributed a number of checks in St. David's. Those who didn't get, or who didn't request the payment by check, also got their payment going directly to their accounts in financial institutions. And the good thing is that many of them would have called or met me and said, thanks, we received the money. Good? They were very happy indeed. So far today, Mr. Speaker, we have paid out $29.8 million to our $29.8 million. We've encouraged our farmers to not to consume all that money, that they should put back some of that money in the land. And we said to them, we still have nutmeg plants on sale, $1. They could still buy manual, NPK 12-824 and 12-822 and the others. They could still buy them. They are available right now at $1 per kilo. So they can get a 50 kilo bag for $50. Yeah? So we encourage them to put back some of that money in the land. Some have indicated that they will do so. In fact, some have said they will plant back nutmeg, because some of them were saying, you know, the nutmeg suffered a lot and the cocoa suffered a lot, but we encourage them to plant back cocoa and nutmeg, and they have given us that commitment that we will plant back the cocoa and the nutmeg. Good? So, but apart from that, Mr. Speaker, in Carriacou, we have assisted our farmers over there. The livestock farmers would have gotten the water tanks that they asked for, and they would have also gotten fencing to assist them with fencing of the area as well. So Carriacou wasn't left out of this. Mr. Speaker, I also want to indicate that as part of our drive to build our livestock industry and to ensure that we have enough meat security in this country, we are expecting sometime this month, if not this month, it will be early in the year, we are expecting high quality breed of ruminants coming into Grenada soon. The plan date we had was December 21st, that's the plan date. But they are coming through Amerijet, so, you know, we hope that, you know, the date is achieved. And of course, we met with the police, we met with all of the stakeholders, and we explain to them the importance of these animals. Good. So we can have a smooth transition of these animals to where they're supposed to go. These animals are for breeding. They are for multiplication. So we're bringing in 165 sheep, high quality sheep. 158 goats, pro-breed, high quality goats. 144 pigs. Good. And they will be located in Laura, in Sautels, and of course, some will also have to go to Carriacou once the farm is ready in Carriacou. The pigs will be housed in Berryville. And all arrangements are now in place to have these animals there. But we want to stress, Mr. Speaker, that these animals are not for eating. They are for reproduction, they are for breeding. Because over the next 3 to 5 years, what we hope is that with the breeding process that we have in place, 75 farmers have already been identified to receive one each of these. And they go to crossbreed with the local. At the same time, some will remain on the government and they will also be breeding. So we hope that in the 3 to 5 years' time, we will have enough of these animals. Pro-breed, Grenadian pig, Grenadian, you could call it spice goat, spice sheep, and spice pig, because they all will be bred to suit our local conditions, so that we could have enough meat to feed our population, so that when external shocks and natural disasters hit us, we will be able to depend on ourselves for these. So I stress, Mr. Speaker, that these animals are not for eating, they are for breeding. In fact, if you eat them, you will be unhealthy. And I know why I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker. I know why I'm saying. If you eat these animals, you're going to be unhealthy. So they're not for eating. They are for reproduction, for breeding, to ensure that we have enough food, meat, quality meat in this country to feed ourselves. And the only reason why I'm saying that, the police is involved with us in that regard to make sure that the animals are secure and safe, and that we are creating the local conditions for them to survive and be adapted to greater local conditions so they can become local pigs, spice goats, and spice sheep. Mr. Speaker, I also want to tell this House that tomorrow, the 19th of December, God's willing, from 9 to 2 p.m., the ministry is going to have a Christmas farmers market. A Christmas farmers market tomorrow at the ministerial complex in the car park that is close to where the passport is. We're going to have that farmers market there, and we are inviting all of our farmers and all of our agro-processors to come out, display your fresh products, and to display your agro-processed goods. The population will come out and give you their full support. Good? So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable MP Person Andrew Southwest. Is it the light of the MP? Yes, for Carriacou and Peter Matnick. The floor is yours, Honorable MP.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, thought it was important that I use this opportunity to update this honorable House with some of the things that are happening in Carriacou and Petit Matnick. As you are well aware, Mr. Speaker, we suffered a devastating Hurricane Beryl, which destroyed over 90% of our housing, or 90% of housing in Carriacou, and left a whole host of other destruction behind. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that after 5 months, couple of weeks, significant progress has been made, and it has been a collaborative effort by the cabinet of Grenada, the various ministers and ministries who've all pulled their weight to ensure that in such a short space of time, we are coming back to some sense of normalcy in Carriacou and Petit Matnick. So I am happy to announce, Mr. Speaker, as many of you might be aware, that schools although it's on holiday, they're taking a break now, but all schools were reopened in Carriacou. It's important to note, Mr. Speaker, that the schools, some of the schools were used as hurricane shelters, and they were damaged, significant damage done to them. For example, the Haverville Government School, the Leicester RC School, P.T. Martinic RC, Mount Pleasant, etc., Bishop's College, Hillsborough Secondary School. All of those schools, Mr. Speaker, have been repaired, and of course, the schools were accommodated to the students. Of course, Mount Pleasant, Mr. Speaker, which sustained a lot of damage, as we speak, work is taking place there. And again, commendation must be given to the Ministry of Infrastructure Development, although the ministry gets a lot of blows, but I think that the Ministry of Infrastructure really came through for the people of Carriacou and P.T. Martinic in getting things done, especially the infrastructural work like our schools and other projects. Of course, for Dover Government School, which was destroyed completely, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Education and Infrastructure will be, and of course the Ministry of Carriacou and P.T. Martinic will certainly be making an announcement as it relates to the rebuilding efforts that will take place there. But in the meantime, temporary solution has been made, and the students are enjoying or learning. And we are trying to make it as comfortable as possible for them, meeting with the PT, meeting with the principal and the staff, to hear the concerns. And of course, you know, we are a government that listens, and from listening we act. So, Mr. Speaker, in addition to schools being reopened, I'm happy to see the men and women of the Royal Grenadier Police Force here. The police station in Carriacou suffered lots of damage. Unlike the history of the past when Hurricane Ivan destroyed many of our state buildings, one of the first buildings to be renovated was the police station. So I'm happy, again, Mr. Speaker, that, and you see, I want us to pay attention to our actions. Action in terms of ensuring that we put our men and women, our workers, etc. You hear more about it in terms of looking at our, paying attention to our action in terms of putting men and women or people first. It's not just a mantra, but we're actually doing it and making it happen. Government buildings, Mr. Speaker, ministry buildings, government offices, etc. The People's Building, which was destroyed or damaged badly, are reopened or in the process of being reopened as a result of the repairs that have taken place. Yesterday was a bittersweet moment, more sweet than bitter, seeing the seniors from Carriacou being relocated back to Carriacou. You know, I'm a big fan of the seniors. And I recall Prime Minister, without even thinking once or thinking twice, he said that all seniors in Carriacou and P.T. Martinic that are affected must be moved down to Grenada immediately. And the instruction was given to the Ministry of Social Development, and the Ministry of Social Development and the team worked their magic to ensure that our seniors were accommodated. The Top Hill Senior Citizen Home, Mr. Speaker, was devastated too, was impacted by the hurricane. I'm happy and of course grateful for the Rotary Corps and the Ministry of Social Development, in particular the Honourable Minister Gloria Thomas and her team at the Ministry of Social Development, at the time P.S. Jeremiah, who moved heaven and earth to work along with the Rotary Corps to get our senior citizen home ready in time for Christmas so our seniors could move back. And yesterday they moved back in, Mr. Speaker. The family, and of course the community of Carriacou and P.T. Martinic is grateful. We are continuing to work with mobilization, the Ministry of Housing and the Ministry of Carriacou and P.T. Martinic to provide affordable housing for the rest of seniors that are in Grenada, which will soon be moving back to Carriacou in a not too distant future, Mr. Speaker. Our hospital was also impacted by the devastation caused by Beryl. The roof was blown out, equipment destroyed, etc. I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, that our hospital is now fully operational. A testament of the hard work by this administration. The Ministry of Health, and in particular, the Ministry of Infrastructure Development, must be given full credit for this amazing work in ensuring that this happened. Our clinics, Mr. Speaker, all but one was spared. We have 5 clinics, and the only one that would stand the test of time of peril was the Hillsborough Health Center. But I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, to announce that work has started on the repairs of all of the clinics in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So that is significant progress being made as a result of the island's infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, significant roofing material support for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique has been given by this administration to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Over $17 million, Mr. Speaker. Let me repeat, over $17 million has been spent by this administration to assist the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique with building and roofing material, regardless to who they are, as long as you're affected, as long as you meet the criteria and the assessment is carried out, because it's a transparent process. And if you went to Carriacou a couple months ago, and you recently visited, you would see, Mr. Speaker, that most people have started back putting their roofs. So you've seen less tarpaulins and more galvanized. And the beauty about this, Mr. Speaker, and again, I must commend the leadership of Prime Minister Mitchell in ensuring that the planning authority was based in Carriacou and is adequately staffed in Carriacou. So it's not just dishing out monies for building materials, but it's ensuring with its support that the people get through the building materials, that the planning authority is right there to guide them, to ensure that they build back better, stronger, and more sustainable. In addition to the building material support, Mr. Speaker, support with building of homes for vulnerable citizens, build back better. And of course, I want to pause for a minute to say thanks to an organization from Trinidad, Hands That Serve, that gave 27 homes to people of Carriacou. And as we speak, over 20 Build Back Better homes are being built, and more homes are on the way to Carriacou and Petit Martinique, which are expected to be here mid-January, Mr. Speaker. So those are some significant progress that is being made. I say to the people, Mr. Speaker, I say pay attention to our actions, not what they're saying, pay attention to our actions. Carriacou and Petit Martinique is now 98% debris free. And I know a big hullabaloo was made as it relates to why we're putting the debris in the pastures or the playing fields and so on, Mr. Speaker. At the time, we had no other choice but to act to try and clean up the place in a record, in the shortest possible time frame. I'm happy that the government of Grenada, who partnered with Solid Waste Management Authority, bought equipment that will ensure that we compact, compile, and should I call it refine, or to ensure that our playing fields, after the debris is cleared out, that our playing fields get back to its pristine state. So the equipment will not only compact and compress and clean up all the debris in the playing fields, but it will ensure that we bring back the playing field to its former glory or even better. Mr. Speaker, this is a visionary and action government. The Minister for Agriculture spoke about the income support to our farmers and fishermen in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Significant progress. I'm happy that a number of our farmers and fishermen in Carriacou has received necessary support. We understand, Mr. Speaker, that not all our farmers and fishermen has received the payments, but I want to give the assurance to the fishermen, the few fishermen who did not receive the payouts, and the farmers who didn't, that come the new year, the Minister and Ministry of Agriculture, along with your Member of Parliament and Ministry of Carriacou and Petit-Martinique, will work collaboratively to ensure that the outstanding farmers and fishermen who did not receive this support will get it for the new year. Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I now rest my case, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, MP for Carriacou and Petit-Martinique, and now I invite the MP for St. George South to take the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Morning to everyone. Mr. Speaker, I just want to commend my colleague from Carriacou and Petit-Martinique for job well done. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, we have shown that we do not back from a challenge, and we do not back from a hurricane, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a scene when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And we have shown, Mr. Speaker, that as an administration, we have taken the step to fight head-on with this challenge we have in front of us that was created by Hurricane Beryl. Mr. Speaker, Hurricane Beryl hit on July 1st of this year. On August 27th, we came to Parliament and we passed a supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, as part of that budget, the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation was tasked with the responsibility of building back. When I say building back, Mr. Speaker, building back, most importantly, homes for our people. For those who lost their roof, Mr. Speaker, and we all know that a roof is an important thing in someone's life. Mr. Speaker, we were allocated $15 million to the housing project of Build Back Better. And today, Mr. Speaker, I am proud to say that we have signed over 200 contracts. 200 contracts, Mr. Speaker, and they were signed by local contractors. So, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing that in this building back process, the money that was allocated is being placed back into the hands of our local people, Mr. Speaker, which will build our economy in the process. Mr. Speaker, we have approximately, near completion, 64 Build Back Better houses. And Mr. Speaker, they are in the parish of St. Patrick's, St. John's, St. Mark, St. Andrews. Mr. Speaker, we are seeing now that over 200 families, Mr. Speaker, are being affected, and they are being put into a better place than they were after Beryl. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we have provided employment through the Build Back Better project for over 1,200 workers and local workers I'm speaking about that was employed by contractors. Mr. Speaker, let me just reiterate this, or to say this, that when we as an administration speak about Build Back Better, we are not only speaking about a building or houses, but, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about building back or building our people in the process. And let me explain. Mr. Speaker, most of the contractors that are employed under this project are ordinary contractors. Mr. Speaker, some of them, the first time they have gotten a contract of that magnitude in terms of their building back. And Mr. Speaker, you have the majority were not able to provide funding for the building back process. So what we did, Mr. Speaker, we engaged some of the financial institutions, and they were able, Mr. Speaker, to provide funding for these local contractors. And Mr. Speaker and House, this is what happened. By providing the funding for them, they were able to now tie the contract to a financial institution, and these institutions can now see the funds going into these contractors' account. And Mr. Speaker, this is important because what happens is that now, or we know that construction workers do jobs and so on a cash basis. But now that the fund is being channeled through a bank or a credit union, Mr. Speaker, they can now have the opportunity to now grow their business because the institutions can see exactly the amount of funds that is coming through and the contracts these contractors are getting. So, Mr. Speaker, we see some of the companies today in construction, like the Creative Designs, and so who are local companies. We have seen their growth through the years. And Mr. Speaker, by doing this project and this program, Mr. Speaker, we can now help our local contractors not just stay at one level, but to move from one stage to the next. And Mr. Speaker, that is what we are talking about by not just building a building or building back better a building, but also building, Mr. Speaker, our people. Mr. Speaker, we have seen over 1,400 people, in terms of over 200 families being affected. And Mr. Speaker, this is just 2024. As Minister Thomas said, Mr. Speaker, look forward for even more in 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable MP for South St. George. MP, turn your light off, please. Now I invite the Honourable Prime Minister. Take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and pleasant morning. I want to take the opportunity right from the outset, as it's the 18th of December, to wish everyone season's greetings and a Merry Christmas, and particularly good health for 2025. I want to express my congratulations to the Honourable Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Southeast on her election as political leader of the New National Party, and to wish her God's blessings and success in her new role. I do wish to express some concern over the absence of the Member of Parliament for the town of St. George. I hope he is well, and I do wish him best wishes as well. I noticed, Mr. Speaker, you said he will not be with us, but you didn't actually give a reason as to whether he's out of state or unwell. I hope he is well. Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge the presence of Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Randy Connaught, and other members of the senior management of the Royal Grenadier Police Force who are with us today. I wish to inform the nation, Mr. Speaker, that Commissioner of Police Don McKenzie has proceeded on leave, much deserved and delayed leave. The nation may recall that I had asked Commissioner McKenzie to stay on as Commissioner past his retirement date in January of this year, and that was extended to December of this year. But obviously, even during that period, even for him to do so, he would have had to give up a substantial portion of his leave. But we are all human, and rest is well deserved. I want to put on record my profound appreciation for the decades of service provided to this nation by Commissioner Don McKenzie. When I assumed office, Commissioner McKenzie had the title of adjunct, a title that was created. We abolished that title, and he became the Deputy Commissioner of Police. And in short order, with I think neither him nor myself expecting it, he was asked to assume the position of Commissioner of Police on the retirement of then Commissioner Edwin Martin. and he unhesitatingly took up the challenge. No doubt, we faced, under his tenure, some challenging times. We had to deal with the hurricane and the security consequences that come from a hurricane. We had to deal with an unprecedented upsurge in gun violence, leading to homicides of several young men. We had to deal with the escape of prisoners from the South St. George police station, as well as while in police custody at the Grenville Magistrates Court. These were difficult times, these were challenging times, and in fact, Commissioner publicly came in for a lot of criticism. He remained professional, he remained dedicated, he remained dignified, and he remained committed to always advancing professional law enforcement, not hasty or reactionary or emotional law enforcement. And so I want to place on record my appreciation to him for leading the Royal Grenadier Police Force during that period. Under Commissioner's tenure, he always advocated for his men. And I'm going to go on record and say this, Mr. Speaker, there's been more requests for promotions and perhaps more promotions of police officers in the last 2.5 years than I suspect at any time in the history of the Royal Grenadier Police Force. And Commissioner Mackenzie has been at the forefront of always advocating for this. Mr. Speaker, prior to me getting involved in public life, I learned of the fact that since on around 1994, 1995, there has been an outstanding pay and grade and salary scale issue affecting members of the Royal Grenadier Police Force that has gone undealt with for the last 20 or so years. Well, 30 or so years if you go back to 1994. And this administration, Mr. Speaker, committed to having the matter addressed. I am happy to report that under Commissioner's tenure, after the government negotiating team negotiated with the police welfare and the other unions that represented public sector workers, that led to the conclusion of negotiations and that led to the signing of a collective bargaining agreement to cover the 3-year period. We gave a commitment to the Police Welfare Association that we will address this pay and grade issue. As a result, a committee, and I want to name the committee because I think it's important for the public to appreciate that when things happen, there are people who are working hard behind the scenes to make sure that it is a success. The committee consisted of Joseph Lane, who in fact is a representative of the Police Welfare Association, Mr. Tyrone Greenwich, Ms. Shanae Dikoto, Ms. Rachel Brazan, Ms. Alicia Durant, Ms. Deborah Kado, and Ms. Everil Bonaparte. And they have done substantial work over the last year on this matter. And we believe we are now in a position where early in the new year, we will be able to, once and for all, address this matter of pay and grade for members of the Royal Grenadier. And I just want to give context so people understand what I mean by this. Ernst & Young had been commissioned to do a study to assess the terms and conditions of police officers contrasted with other public sector workers. And the police had raised a number of issues: their working hours, the patterns, the long hours, the danger, the risk, the adverse working environment, and I'll come to this in a while, Mr. Speaker, the range of roles that and mission creep that has been burdening the RGPF, leave entitlements and loss of public holidays, impact on pension allowances, and inconsistent treatment compared to other public sector service groups. Now, after Ernst & Young did their assessment, the key conclusions noted that the salary structure implemented in 1995 and 1996 undervalued police roles, especially at ranks PO and P3, or PO2, P3, and that's constables, corporals, and sergeants. And that there were significant inconsistencies between police and public officers, and in particular when compared to the teachers' scale. And it resulted in police officers being at a disadvantage in terms of salary progression relative to other public officers and teachers at equivalent levels. And so, Mr. Speaker, those are the issues that we have sought to address over the last year, and we have the recommendations in by the committee. We believe the Police Welfare Association, with some further discussions, will agree to the recommendations, and we look forward to, in fact, having those implemented so that we can address this matter. So I raise this, Mr. Speaker, to point out again, in keeping with what the Honourable Member of Parliament for Carriacou, P.T. Martinique, said: judge us by our actions, not by our talk. We don't engage in megawatts of talk, we engage in megawatts of action. So again, Mr. Speaker, a matter outstanding since 1995. You know where I was in 1995, Mr. Speaker? I was in National College. I was in Theophilus Albert Barishaw Community College at Tantine since 1995. So it tells you how long this matter is outstanding. Mr. Speaker, by way of information, I wish to advise that, as I said, Acting Commissioner of Police Randy Connaught will act as Commissioner of Police until the leave entitlement of Commissioner Don McKenzie expires. Deputy Commissioner of Police Prince, who is also here, Mr. Speaker, also has been extending service to the Royal Grenada Police Force and the good people of Grenada beyond his call of duty. And we've asked him to stay on, Mr. Speaker, until the middle of 2025, and we want to again place on record our appreciation for his commitment and his willingness to work beyond retirement age in the interest of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Mr. Speaker, further announcements will be made pertaining to the management of the Royal Grenada Police Force. I also wish to place on record, Mr. Speaker, that we have moved speedily to commence work on a building in Grenville, and we expect that the work will be concluded shortly in the new year, so that the Grenville Police Station can be relocated, and so that the men and women who are housed and who have to do business and serve the public at the Grenville Police Station will be doing so in significantly enhanced premises in Grenville. As you are aware, Mr. Speaker, we are drawing down to the conclusion of work on the police headquarters, which is being relocated at what was once the, in those days, Grentel and then Cable and Wireless and then Flow headquarters building, which also for a short period of time housed the Supreme Court buildings. The work is ongoing, it is near completion, and I just say anyone who drives by, it will be hard-pressed not to be impressed by the significant transformation of the building. So, Mr. Speaker, we are not just committed to improving the physical infrastructure under which our law enforcement officers serve, but as I said, we are also committed to addressing the terms and conditions by which they work and improving the terms and conditions under which they serve the public. So there are obviously several other buildings that needs urgent attention, but I think, as highlighted by the Member of Parliament for Carriacou and P.T. Martinique, the Ministry for Infrastructure has enormous responsibilities stretching across the entire country and the entire government service. And so for those who are currently in circumstances that are less than ideal, obviously our request would be to ask them to exercise patience. I hope a hurricane every year doesn't become a norm, but you'd appreciate, Mr. Speaker, obviously with a hurricane there's been significant disruption, not just hurricanes, but the storms, the heavy rains have led to significant flooding and damage to public infrastructure as well as private homes as well, and that's the added challenge that the Ministry of Infrastructure has to treat with. But notwithstanding that, I think we can demonstrate that the ministry has taken on and has delivered in significant ways on many infrastructure projects, both pre and post Hurricane Beryl. And so I want to go on record to thank the staff at the Ministry of Infrastructure, the current acting PS Alva Brown, PS Sylvia Bennett Thomas, the Chief Technical Officer, Mr. Kevin Blash, and other senior persons, Mr. Ray Goddard, the Senior Administrative Officer, and others there, who have worked tirelessly to address a lot of the physical challenges that we face in Grenada. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I will conclude. The next time I get an opportunity to make statements on the Minister's statement, I will address the prison service. Oftentimes, the prisons, rightfully so, state that they feel like the outside child, because very little appreciation is shown to them and the institution, given the significant role they play in the safety, peace and stability of this country. And I want to assure them, under my watch as Minister for National Security, that they will not in fact be treated like the outside child. They are part and parcel, an integral part of the family and the institutions that make this country a safe place for all of us. So, Mr. Speaker, again, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. I think you may.
Item 13, personal explanations. Item 14, motions.
Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion. Whereas debate on the gracious address delivered by the Governor General on the occasion of the ceremonial state opening of the third session of the 11th Parliament on Friday the 4th of October 2024 was deferred to a date to be named. Be it resolved that the said address be now further deferred to a date to be fixed. Thank you.
Honourable members, the question is that whereas debate on the gracious address delivered by the Governor General on the occasion of the ceremonial state opening of the third session of the 11th Parliament on Friday, 4th October 2024, was deferred to a date to be named, be it resolved that the debate on the said address be further deferred to a date to be fixed. Those who have that opinion say aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it.
Item 15, bills.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to introduce for the first reading a bill for an act shortly entitled Public Sector Employee Pension Fund Bill 2024.
A bill which seeks to establish a contributory pension scheme for public sector employees, shortly entitled Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Bill 2024.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the relevant standing order of the House be suspended to enable the bill to be taken through all the stages at this sitting.
Honourable members, the question is that the relevant standing order of the House be suspended to enable the bill to be taken through all its stages at this sitting. Those of that opinion say aye. Or the contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the second reading of the bill.
Honourable members, the question is that the bill be read a second time. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Bill 2024 seeks to establish a contributory pension scheme for public sector employees to provide for the establishment of a fund from which the payment of pensions, gratuities, and allowances are to be paid to such employees. Also, Mr. Speaker, to provide for the establishment of a board of trustees to manage and administer the said fund, and to provide for other relevant matters. Mr. Speaker, this bill in question consists of 8 parts and 79 clauses. And due to the sheer length of this bill, Mr. Speaker, I will attempt to discuss what I consider some of the more pertinent aspects of the bill. And I imagine my colleagues would assist and support in other areas. But this bill, Mr. Speaker, if, as Grenadians, we are to recall our history, we would recall a very stirring campaign of 2018 in which, Mr. Speaker, pensions, as it were on the ballot. And disappointingly so, Mr. Speaker, the said pension, so spoken of eloquently and so well promised, was never delivered. It took, Mr. Speaker, a new, young, brilliant and dynamic team, led by our excellent Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, to introduce today this bill, responding to the needs of our public servants. So this bill, Mr. Speaker, and this day, the 18th day of December 2024, must go down as part of history making. Part 1 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, comprises of 4 clauses. It treats with the short title and aspects of definitions and scope. The scope and application of this Act, Mr. Speaker, Section 3, subsection 1, reads, subject to the provision of this section, as from the date of operation of this Act, the provisions of this Act shall apply to all new public sector employees. All new public sector employees. It shall also apply, Mr. Speaker, to all public sector employees who hold non-pensionable offices by virtue of a relevant enactment, or have neither attained the age of 50 nor have been employed with the government of Grenada for a period exceeding 15 years. C, all employees of the government who are currently employed in the public service on a contractual basis and by virtue of the terms and conditions of this contract are not eligible to receive a gratuity. However, Mr. Speaker, this bill shall not apply, or this act shall not apply to employees of the government who are employed in the public service on a contractual basis, whether fixed term or otherwise, and who by virtue of the terms and conditions of their contract are eligible to receive a gratuity. Also, Mr. Speaker, those employees of the government who are currently employed in the public service for a period exceeding 15 years and are already 50 years old. It shall not apply, Mr. Speaker, to temporary employees, neither persons who are seconded from statutory bodies or agencies of government that have their own pension arrangements. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt, the law to be applied with respect to the payment of pensions, gratuities, and allowances to public officers, to teachers, police officers, and prisoner officers who have been so employed prior to the date of operation of this Act and is eligible to receive a pension, gratuity, or allowance, or other allowance, shall be relevant enactment which applies to such public officer, teacher, police officer, or pension officer, save and except where such officer, teacher, or police officer, or prison officer opt for the provisions of this Act to apply to them in this regard. Part 2 of the bill. Part 2 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, contains and comprises clauses 5 to 8. Clause 5 provides for the establishment of the public sector employees pension scheme, and clause 6 provides for eligibility requirements for members of the said scheme and the obligations of a member to make mandatory contributions to the fund. Membership of the scheme. Section 6, subsection 1, Mr. Speaker, speaks as from the date of the operation of this Act, a public sector employee whom the provisions of this Act apply by virtue of Section 3, subsection 1, shall be a member of the scheme and shall be required to make mandatory contributions. So the said members, Mr. Speaker, to whom the Act applies and to who qualifies under the scheme, under this Act, shall be required to make mandatory contributions. Mr. Speaker, in like manner, the employer is also required to make mandatory contributions. A public sector employee who has been so employed for a period of 3 months or less shall not be eligible for membership of the scheme or be required to contribute to the fund. And of course, we spoke to temporary employment earlier, and that is the context within which such employee may not be so required to contribute. However, Mr. Speaker, a public officer, teacher, police officer, or prison officer who is so employed on the date of operation of this Act and eligible to receive a pension, gratuity, or other allowances in accordance with the provisions of any of the relevant enactment may, in the prescribed manner, within 12 months after the date of operation of this Act, may now opt to become a member of this scheme by completing the relevant registration documentation and thereafter being accepted by the scheme by virtue of approval of the Board of Trustees. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, the Act will now apply, and the said member will now have to make their mandatory contributions into the scheme. We now move to Part 4, Mr. Speaker, that speaks to the establishment of the Board of Trustees. So the Board of Trustees, Mr. Speaker, shall consist of the following appointed trustees who are so appointed by the Governor General, acting on the advice of the relevant minister. And the composition of the said board, Mr. Speaker, consists of the following: the permanent secretary within the Ministry of Public Administration and the permanent secretary within the Ministry of Finance. These two board members, Mr. Speaker, trustee members, are deemed ex officio members of the board. There are 7 other members of the board, and they consist of the following: an attorney general of 10 years in practice, an actuary, sorry, thanks for the correction. It's an attorney, Mr. Speaker, not the attorney general. An attorney at law. Thank you. A little humor is good. So, the members shall be an attorney of 7 years practice, an actuary having the necessary qualification and experience, a person who has demonstrable knowledge of finance, and a person who has at least 5 years experience in human resources management, and investment expert, or who has demonstrable knowledge in investment management, as someone appointed or so named by a trade union representing public sector employees, and one person representing statutory bodies. Tenure of the appointment. So those are this. Altogether, Mr. Speaker, we speak to a board of trustees consisting of 9 members. 2 are permanent secretaries, one from finance, the other from Department of Human Resources, and the other 7 professionals from different callings with different expertise to add to the structure and competence of the board. And Mr. Speaker, one would recognize the importance, Mr. Speaker, of these, and that would basically add to the value of their contribution on the board. Contributory schemes, Mr. Speaker, are not necessarily very easy schemes to manage, and therefore the presence of somebody with actuarial knowledge, as stated earlier, is also important, because in actuarial as well building a strong framework for the management of the scheme. And this again underscores the government's commitment to ensuring that the scheme is set up and well managed, and that there is something there to protect our employees on their retirement. This, Mr. Speaker, is in addition to the National Insurance Scheme retirement benefits. And I make this point because one must appreciate that the NIS serves its good purpose. But over the years, what we've recognized is that our public officers, after they retire, many, or I should say the vast majority, retire into poverty. The vast majority, Mr. Speaker, retire and have to depend on seed to live, which is a social program implemented by the government. What we're trying to do here, Mr. Speaker, is to build a framework to ensure that our public officers, when they retire, their interest is protected. And this we deem very important. So, Mr. Speaker, when we look at what has been happening over the last 2.5 years, one could safely conclude that this NDC administration, in fact, is the most pro-worker government in recent history. Yep. If you roll back the curtains for 2.5 years, the amount of investments, the amount of monies, and everything else that goes along with it that we've put into the hands of our employees, our public servants, the time that we've taken to restructure the public service and to ensure that our public servants work with a sense of professionalism and independence, one could safely conclude that this government is very serious of building a strong and vibrant public service. So I move to the tenure of appointment of the board. And this too is important, Mr. Speaker. So a trustee so appointed to the board pursuant to the Act shall be appointed for a period not exceeding 3 years, and the appointment shall be effected in such a manner that will ensure that as far as possible, the expiry in any 1 year of the term of office of not more than 1/2 of the said trustees would leave the board at any one time. And that is important for continuity and succession planning, because you want to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that the skill set and the competence and the experience from serving on the board is always intact. And so the membership on the board is likely to be staggered to ensure that at least half of the board will always be retained while we have others being rotated. The appointment of chairman and deputy chairman of the board. The Governor General, Mr. Speaker, acting on the advice of the minister, shall so appoint a chairman and a deputy chairman of the board from amongst the trustees appointed as per section 11. Oops. So in the case where the chairman is unable to act, the deputy chairman, Mr. Speaker, will so act in his or her stead. Mr. Speaker, we now move to Section 25 of the Act, where we take a look at the general rules relating to investment transactions of the fund. And again, this is very important because the idea behind all of this is to ensure that the fund remains strong, that the fund lasts into perpetuity as much as is humanly possible, and that the pensions remains relevant to the employees, and that they are motivated to continue to contribute to the scheme. If built out properly from the onset, it is likely to succeed. So here are some of the general rules as per Section 25 of the Act. No investment, Mr. Speaker, shall be made without the prior approval of the board. And this too is important because the overall governance of the fund is a critical component in ensuring that the fund actually lasts. 2, Mr. Speaker, all investment transactions shall be undertaken at arm's length, and that all price comparable in the market for similar investment transactions shall be so made. So the price comparisons, the market analyses, and all of these are critical things for decision making must happen, Mr. Speaker, at arm's length transactions and inquiries. All investment transactions shall have the authorization of the board, and be consistent with the investment policies, standards, and procedures as established pursuant to Section 23. So, Mr. Speaker, the policies, the standards, the procedures, and all of these things that are set up within the framework of the management of the fund, the investments shall be in line with all of this to ensure that the proper governance and management of the fund actually happens. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are trying to do is to ensure that all of our public officers who qualify under this fund actually gets a pension on retirement. So we're setting this in such a way, Mr. Speaker, that the fund by law must be governed properly. So you ask the question, who is it that are really seeking the best interests of public servants? Who is it that is guaranteeing that when public officers give up their lives for decades, sometimes 30 and 40 years, some of them work, Mr. Speaker, and having to retire after, who is it that really stands with the employee? Who is it, as we put in inverted commas, like poor people? This, Mr. Speaker, guarantees, and we're not even talking about all the actions that we've taken to ensure that minimum wage of employees are protected and the salary adjustments has been made and so on and so on. Who is it, Mr. Speaker, that really seeks the interests of our public officers and really seeks the interests of the small man and poor people, as we put it? Mr. Speaker, this day, Mr. Speaker, must be considered as a day of history making in Grenada. We are not simply talking and making empty promises. And yes, in fact, that we made this promise, that we are going to implement pension. Today, Mr. Speaker, is yet another fulfillment of the promise that we've made. Today marks, Mr. Speaker, another commitment to the working people of this country. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, that the private sector also take note of this, and they too should put their own pension fund in place. Let's move, Mr. Speaker, to the actuarial valuation of the fund. Section 27. The first actuarial valuation of the fund shall take place at the end of 2 years after the fund is established, and thereafter the fund shall be valued at intervals not exceeding 5 years by an actuary appointed by the board. So, Mr. Speaker, the actuary in the whole mix, and that's an independent actuary we're speaking about. Remember, Mr. Speaker, when we spoke about the composition of the board, we spoke of someone who had actuarial experience and knowledge to sit on the board. This actuarial valuation we're speaking about is an independent actuary who, after the first 2 years, shall evaluate the fund and make recommendations to the board for implementation. And thereafter, every 5 years at minimum, the actuary shall again continue to evaluate the fund and ensure that the growth of the fund is in line with what is expected in order to secure the life of the fund, to ensure that it remains a viable fund. The actuary, Mr. Speaker, shall prepare a report on the state of the fund and recommend any necessary action to be so taken to the board. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker, a report submitted pursuant to Section 2 shall be submitted to the actuary to the board within 1 month of receipt thereof. That said report shall be submitted to the minister with responsibility for public administration. And within 2 months of receipt of the report submitted pursuant to Section 3, the minister responsible for finance shall cause the said report to be laid at the House of Parliament. So, what we've seen here, Mr. Speaker, is that throughout the entire process, the accountability of the fund is underpinned by different levels of reporting to the board, to the minister for finance, to Parliament. So at all levels, the said fund is being, the accountability, that thread of accountability runs through the operations of the fund at all levels. Annual estimates, Section 34. No later than 3 months before the end of each financial year, the board shall cause to be prepared estimates of revenue and expenditure of the fund for the next financial year. And so, Mr. Speaker, the budgeting and preparation and forecasting of information for the consideration of the board is also a critical component, so that at least expenses can be properly managed and monitored in accordance with the budget. These estimates of revenue and expenditure prepared pursuant to Section 1 or subsection 1 shall be submitted to the minister for his approval, and after such approval, the board shall not increase the annual estimates without approval of such minister. So again, Mr. Speaker, the thread of accountability runs through the entire process. The annual estimates shall make provisions for the estimates of expenditure of the fund for the financial year, and in particular shall provide for the payment of salaries and other allowances in respect of the trustees and the members of the committee and such other persons contracted by the Board of Trustees, and also any other administrative costs or expenses. The audit of the fund, Section 35. The accounts of the fund shall be audited by an auditor appointed by the board and approved by the Director of Audit. So this allows, Mr. Speaker, that, of course, an independent audit be conducted each year, an auditor of the choosing of the board. However, the approval must be given from the Director of Audit, and that is normal. The board shall, within 6 months after the end of each financial year, cause to be made and transmitted to the minister. Also, a statement, 6 months after, let me just take this again, just not to confuse anybody. Maybe I should do it in layman terms, that 6 months following the end of the financial year, the following statements shall be submitted, or audited statements shall be submitted to the minister. A statement of accounts of the fund, a report regarding the state of affairs of the fund, the business and the financial position of the fund, which includes the financial position, the statement of accounts, cash flows. Those should be so submitted. The minister shall cause a copy of the said report, together with the annual statement of accounts and audited reports thereof, to be laid on the respective, to be laid at the House of Parliament. Part 5 of the fund, of the bill, Part 5 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, comprises clause 40 to 46. And this sets out the manner in which the contributions are to be made to the fund. I believe this one, again, is very important for our public officers to note. We spoke earlier about the mandatory contributions of the member. We're also going to speak a little about the mandatory contribution by the employer. All right, so just a few more minutes and we should be able to wrap up. Excuse me. Part 5, Section 40. Each member shall make monthly contributions to the fund at the rates set out in Part A of the schedule, which shall be deducted from the salary of the member by the employer. Where the employer fails to deduct the member's contribution, the sum may be recovered in the subsequent months, and any penalties payable thereon shall be paid by the employer. So, Part A, Schedule 2, speaks to the contributions that members may make into the scheme, or shall make into the scheme. I think we're talking also how to speak properly. The members shall make the following salaries not exceeding the maximum insurable earnings as defined pursuant to the Insurance Act, to the NS Act, Cap 205, 3%, so that the salary is not exceeding the maximum insurable earnings. If you're not exceeding the maximum insurable earnings of the, as per the NS Act Cap 205, you pay 3%. If the salaries so exceed the maximum insurable earnings as defined under the said Cap 205 NS Act, the contributions are 6%. Right? So, in other words, the higher paid employees get to pay a little more into the fund. The employer contributions, just dealt with the employee, employer, and employer shall make monthly contributions in respect of each member as follows. Salaries not exceeding the maximum insurable earnings as per Cap 205 NS Act, the said 3%. In other words, to make it simple, employer pays 50% of the contributions, employee pays 50% of the contributions. So it's split down the middle. So the same, and for those that has salary exceeding the maximum insurable earnings, they get to pay the government, the employee, for salary exceeding the maximum insurable earnings, the employer pays 6%. All right, so it's an exact replica of the employee contribution. So it's basically 50-50. Think we got that? Where the employer is a statutory body, that is, one that receives a government subvention, because there is a distinction, Mr. Speaker, where the employer, because as indicated earlier, statutory bodies, may be able to join the scheme. However, where the employer is a statutory body, there is a distinction between those that receive a government subvention versus those that does not receive a government subvention. So where the employer is a statutory body that does not receive a government subvention from the government, contributions may be made at rates to be determined upon agreement of the statutory body and the member, which shall not be lower than the rates applicable to as per subparagraph I above. And in other words, what this is saying, that if it's a statutory body that does not receive a government subvention, the contributions may be made at the rate that will be decided or determined upon agreement of the statutory body and the member. In other words, because you know these statutory bodies have the separate arrangements of employment, have the unions and all of that. So they will negotiate what those rates are. However, those rates shall not be lower than the rates stipulated those that receive, Mr. Speaker, a subvention, those that receive a subvention from the government, contributions shall be made at the rate set out as per the schedule just spoken of, Schedule B, Part B, Schedule 2, just spoken of, which is the 3% and the 6% in accordance with the Cap 205 of the NIS Act. So, Mr. Speaker, I took the time to speak to this because I believe it is important for us to understand how the contributions are to be made and the rate at which those contributions are to be made. I want to pause and inject into the conversation, Mr. Speaker, the importance of these contributions. What is this doing, Mr. Speaker? This is actually setting aside compulsory savings towards retirement. That is what a contributory scheme is. But the government or the employer and the employee makes equal contributions into a fund that guarantees a set amount at the end of your retirement, or amount calculable amount based on a formula at the end of the retirement, at the end of a service, commencement of retirement. So, Mr. Speaker, we got to be careful about these things and understand that, yes, a 3%, or in other cases 6%, one might say, well, I'm actually going to be taking home less money. And I'm putting forward this here to say this is not about taking home less money. This is your money. This employee that is making that contribution into this fund has an account, just as how you have an account into the bank. You have an account in your fund. And this account guarantees you a financial returns at the end of your working life. The money is yours. Nobody is taking this money away from you. You're not paying an additional tax. This is not a tax. If we wanted to introduce a tax, we are going to introduce a tax. So let us not be fooled about this. And I use this respectfully, Mr. Speaker. Let us not be fooled about this. This does not look like a tax, it doesn't smell like a tax, and it is not a tax. This is an investment that an employee makes into securing his future, securing his retirement. And this is the wise thing to do. And you're not making it alone. Your government is making an equal contribution with you to ensure that your retirement is protected. So that is what this is seeking to do. And that's why it is called a contributory fund, and that's why there is an independent board. That's why an actuary is in the mix, and that is why there's accountability running all the way through up to the Parliament of Grenada to ensure that what we say is yours, that your account is maintained throughout the process and that you're able to receive your money at the end of your employment with the government or with the so-named statutory body. Excuse me. Mr. Speaker, I'm almost done, I hope. Yeah, almost done. I refer us, Mr. Speaker, to Section 42 that speaks to voluntary contributions. In addition, Mr. Speaker, to mandatory contributions required under Section 41, a member may, upon approval by the board, pursuant to an application made in the prescribed manner, make voluntary contributions to the fund at a rate as may be determined by the member, save and except that such rate shall not exceed the rate as set out in Part C, Schedule 3, which is 10%. So maximum rate of voluntary contribution by a member, 10%. All right? A public officer, teacher, police officer, or prison officer who is not a member of the scheme may, upon approval by the board, pursuant to an application made in the prescribed manner, make a voluntary contribution to the fund at a rate as may be determined by such public officer, teacher, police officer, or prison officer, save and except that such rate shall not exceed the rate set out in Part C, Schedule 3, which I just read, 10%. Just deal with this last penultimate section, Section 43, past service contributions. Subject to the provisions of this section, Mr. Speaker, an employer shall pay into the fund in respect of an employee who is a member of the scheme at the date of operation of this Act by virtue of Section 3, subsection 1B or C, past service credit contributions calculated in accordance with Schedule D, Part D, Schedule 2, which is the 3 and the 6% according to Cap 205 of the NIS Act, just for referencing. Subsection 2 of Section 43 of the Act, the payment of any past service credit contributions into the fund by an employer pursuant to subsection 1, just read, may be phased in over a period of 5 years. So past service contributions may be phased in over a period of 5 years after the date of operations of this Act, in such manner as may be specified by the employer until the amount is fully paid or liquidated. Change of employer. Final piece that I wish to bring to our attention, which I think was critical for our understanding, because there is going to be a transition and our public officers, statutory employees and so on must appreciate these critical components. So final little piece, change of employer. Section 45, subsection 1, where a member changes employment from one employer to another employer, or to an employer who does not contribute to the fund, the same retirement savings account shall be maintained for the member. Earlier, Mr. Speaker, I spoke about each employee, or as for the fund, each member has an account in the fund. So the same retirement savings account, you have a retirement savings account, shall be maintained for the member. Let me just mention this as just knowledge. I know, Mr. Speaker, in the UK, for example, I did my studies were UK-based studies. So there's something called retirement savings account, which can be used as part of your security for conducting business. I hope at some stage that can be applicable, because it's real money, it is your money set aside, it is not a tax, and if we apply it sensibly, one can leverage his retirement savings because it's yours, or your dependent's own if you die. You can actually leverage that for borrowing purposes, for example, or investment purposes. Just saying. Part two, finally, we're a member of we're a member or a person specified under section 43, subsection 3, sorry, Mr. Speaker. Just take this again, I guess I'm a bit tired. I don't usually talk for this long. So, we're a member or a person specified under section 42, subsection 3, is no longer employed by a participating employer. The member shall be eligible to make voluntary contributions to the fund in accordance with the provisions of this Act. And Mr. Speaker, this brings me to the end of my notes that I wanted to share with the House. I think this particular bill is one that was long in coming. I know we've been working on it for, I would say, maybe close to 2 years that we've been working on this bill. And we have the privilege of presenting it this morning to this Parliament. I want to commend Department of Public Administration, Legal Affairs, Ministry of Finance, and all the other ministries, departments, staff, and the leadership of our Prime Minister, of course, to really take this bill to where it is this morning, and to be able to present to the Parliament of Grenada. I think it's a well thought out bill. I had the pleasure of reading through all of it, and I thought it was well crafted. So I want to commend the drafters and the crafters and the workers, employees, and the leaders who led this process through. I now commend this bill to the House for debate, and I ask, please, on both sides of the House, we need your support, we need your endorsement of this bill. This is not about us, this is about the employees who've worked for many, many years in the system and is in fact and indeed deserving of a pension. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Leader of Government Business. And I invite the MP for St. Patrick West to now take the floor.
You'll see commentary.
It happens to all of us. Low on cash and in need of money right away. Play Instacash Monday to Sunday and there are no draws.
So what you saying? No numbers to choose from?
Nope.
And no draw sessions to wait on?
Nope.
And we can play it anytime and any day?
Yep. Including Sundays. Instacash. Ask for it by name and choose from a wide variety of games as low as $2 and win instantly. It is fast, it is easy to play, and you win cash right away. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Good morning, viewers and listeners. Welcome to the National Lotteries Authority's Daily Pick 3 Multi-X Mid-Morning Draw for today, Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. I am Anisha Charles. With me this morning is Ms. Dion Francis from RSO and Company Limited, accountants and advisors, whose purpose is to ensure that this draw is conducted in an accountable manner, and the game balls with industry standards and no is tampered with. But the same sure tickets at hand. It's Daily Pick 3. It pays to play. Good luck. First of all, this morning is check the tickets in the meantime. First number is 8, second number is 5, third and final number is 3. Okay, let's recap those numbers. Numbers on the screen, check your tickets. First number is 8, the second 5, third and final is 3. So that's 8, 5, and 3. Congratulations, all winners. It's now time for the multi-X draw. Hope you got the tickets out. Let's play and good luck. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Let's recap. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Congratulations, all winners. For Pick 3 multi-X ticket drawn last evening, we had a total prize payout of $10,700 with a total of 85 winners. And of course, congratulations to those of you who are part of this payout. Stay tuned, get to Play with multi-X draw up next. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I won $10 on Playway, $20 back up on Pick 3, and cash for each, please. Okay, are you adding multi-X to your bet? Yes, multi-X, all of them. Smart. Best value bet. Backup and multi-X, you cannot go wrong. Don't matter the bet, multi-X all of the daily games.
With multi-X added, your winnings can be multiplied 3 times, 5 times, even 7 times. So make it a rule. Add multi-X to all your Playway, daily Pick 3, and daily cash for bets every day and for every drop, and watch your money grow. Available at stores and online.
You heard it here. Multiply your winnings daily. Must be 18 or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Play with multi-X mid-morning draw for today, Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. I am Anisha Charles. With me again is Ms. Dion Francis from RSO and Company Limited, accountants and advisors, whose purpose is to ensure that this draw is conducted in an accounted manner, and the game balls with industry standards and in no way tampered with. Let's play Playway, value your dreams and win your way. Good luck. This morning's winning Playway number is 35. Let's recap the number 3535. 35 represents the dream symbol Crackle. Congratulations, all winners. It's time for the multi-X draw. Hope you got the tickets out. Let's play and good luck. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Let's recap. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Congratulations, all winners. Who played multi-X ticket drawn last evening, we had a total prize payout of $24,072 with a total of 444 winners. And of course, congratulations to those of you who are part of this payout. Stay tuned, get a daily cash with multi-X draw up next. We'll see you really soon.
Like family, it's always exciting when lottery players get together. Now the lottery games are joining in the fun. Check out the multiplier family of InstaCash games. 5 times the cash at $2, 10 times the cash at $3, and 20 times the cash at $5. On your tickets, match any of our numbers with any of the winning numbers and win the prize below that number. There's more. Multiply your winnings up to 5 times, 10 times, or 20 times more. Winning is easy. Play Monday to Sunday. There are no draws to wait on. Win instantly. It's the multiplier family of InstaCash games with over $675,000 to be won instantly. Don't just buy one, buy all, because family is everything. Must be 18 years and older to play. NLA, making family dreams come true.
Welcome back, everyone, to another daily cash for multi-X mid-morning draw for today, Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. I am Anisha Charles. With me once again is Ms. Dion Francis from RSO and Company Limited, accountants and advisors, whose purpose is to ensure that this draw is conducted in an accounted manner, but the game balls with industry standards and in no way tampered with. At this time, you should have your tickets at hand. It's daily cash for more plays, bigger prizes. Let's find out what this morning's winning numbers will be. Good luck to you. Let's know what this morning is. Check your tickets in the meantime. First First number up is 6, second number is 5, third number up. Third number is 4, fourth and final number is 9. Okay, let's recap those numbers. Numbers on the screen. Check your tickets. First number up is 6, the second 5, third 4, fourth and final is 9. So that's 6, 5, 4, and 9. Congratulations to all the winners. It's time for the multi-X draw. Hope you got the tickets out. Let's play and good luck. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Let's recap. This morning's winning multi-X ball is FB. Congratulations to all the winners. For Cash Forward multi-X tickets drawn last evening, we had a total prize payout of $4,200 with a total of 17 winners. And of course, congratulations to those of you who are part of this payout. We only play all the games of the National Lotteries Authority support sports, culture, and nation building. Thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
It's back, and you must win. Yes, Grenada. As the name says, you're bound to win. In the NLA's 2024, you must win promotion. Simply spend $15 or more in a single purchase on Daily Pick 3, Daily Cash 4, or Playway. Then check your ticket to see what you have won. Look for the words, you won, free cash, or free Insta tickets, or free raffle entries for chances to win. Not one, but 2 Suzuki Swift cars. In the NLA's 2024, you must win promotion. Over $100,000 in prizes to be won. So be sure to spend in increments of $15 on all your daily games for the rest of the year. Promotion runs from November 15th to December 31st, 2024. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 18 or older to participate. NLA, spreading the Christmas cheer to you and those who's there.